It wasn't the bark. It was the silence that followed. The kind of silence that drops heavy, thick like fog before a storm. And for Logan Reed, a single dad, just trying to get through another Wednesday morning with his 2-year-old daughter and a mug of reheated coffee, that silence would change everything. His retired K-9 partner, Ranger, a 92 pounds German shepherd with scars across his muzzle and the loyalty of 10 men, stood perfectly still in the kitchen doorway. No tail wag, no head tilt, just frozen. His ears stiff, eyes locked, breath barely moving. Logan noticed it the moment he turned from the sink. Ranger never froze like that unless something was terribly wrong. At the breakfast table, little Ellie was kicking her socked feet against her booster chair, laughing with a plastic spoon in her hand. The morning light poured in through the kitchen window, highlighting the golden curls falling in messy bunches over her forehead. She was halfway through a bowl of oatmeal, banana cinnamon her favorite. Across from her stood Dana, their full-time nanny for the past 6 months. Early 30s. Midwestern sweet, soft-spoken, always on time. She wore her usual pale pink hoodie and blue jeans, her back to Ranger as she coaxed another spoonful toward Ellie's mouth. "Come on, honey," Dana cooped. "Just one more bite for the princess." Ranger erupted. Not with a growl, not with a bark, with a full-blown primal lunge. The sound of nails on tile shot through the kitchen. Logan didn't have time to yell before Ranger clamped down on Dana's forearm, sending the spoon clattering across the counter. Ellie screamed. Dana shrieked. In shock, stumbling backward as Ranger held her arm tight, but didn't shake or tear. Just firm, unmoving, controlled. "Ranger, out." Logan's voice cracked with the kind of command only war veterans use. "Out now," Ranger released. Dana crumpled to the floor, clutching her. Blood seeped through her sleeve. Ellie cried louder. For a moment, everything was still again, except for the thudding of Logan's heart and the high-pitched wail of a frightened child. He rushed to Ellie first, scooping her out of the chair. She clung to his hoodie, tears soaking into the fabric. Then he turned to Ranger, who had backed up near the pantry. The dog wasn't snarling, wasn't pacing. He was just staring at the spoon on the floor. "What the hell just happened?" Logan breathed. Dana's voice trembled. "Your dog attacked me. He went crazy. I didn't do anything. I swear." The bowl of oatmeal sat untouched on the table, but Logan's eyes followed the arc of the fallen spoon and noticed something odd. A strange pinkish smear, not the color of banana or cinnamon. He didn't say anything. He just stared at it. Outside, a neighbor had already called 911. Logan could hear the distant whoop of sirens coming up Maple Street, and all he could think was, Ranger's never bitten anyone, not even in combat, not unless there was a reason. The living room was a scene of chaos. A uniformed paramedic wrapped Dana's arm in gauze while another EMT tried to calm Ellie, who wouldn't stop crying unless she was in Logan's arms. 2 officers stood near the door, one of them from Logan's old department. They were careful, polite, but firm. "Going to need to take the dog for a behavioral hold, Logan. He's not a stray. He's a decorated K-9, you know." "That," Logan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I know, but he bit a civilian, and it's procedure." Ranger sat calmly near the fireplace, his eyes never leaving Ellie. He didn't growl when they approached. He didn't resist when Logan clipped on the lead. But before he stepped outside, the dog turned his head back toward the kitchen table as if something there still needed attention. As they loaded Ranger into the back of the animal control van, Logan felt a knot form deep in his gut. Something about this wasn't right. Dana had been with them for 6 months. Ellie loved her. She had no prior, no issues. She passed all the background checks. But Ranger didn't trust easily, and he never snapped without cause. Before the van door closed, Logan leaned in and whispered, "I'm going to figure this out, buddy. I promise." The van drove off. Ellie was still sniffling on the couch, hugging her stuffed turtle, and that's when Logan remembered the spoon. He walked into the kitchen, heart thumping, and picked it up gently with a paper towel. He eyed the bowl. Nothing looked wrong but the smell. It was off. Something metallic, faint, but sharp, lingered in the steam. He scraped the smallest amount of oatmeal into a Ziploc bag. Not for the police, for someone he trusted more. If this story has you on edge, don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more gripping, real-life-inspired tales of courage, instinct, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Every view supports the stories that deserve to be told. 2 hours later, Logan sat in his truck outside a veterinary toxicologist's private lab. Dr. Marlene Jacobs had been with the Army. They'd crossed paths overseas. If anyone could run quiet tests with no red tape, it was her. She took the sample without questions. She just raised an eyebrow when he told her it came from a toddler's breakfast. "That's not what oatmeal's supposed to smell like," she muttered, already prepping a slide. Logan didn't stay. He didn't want Ellie out of his sight. He drove home, his eyes scanning the road like the old days, watching rear-view mirrors, watching corners, watching everything. At home, Ellie napped in her crib. Dana had gone to urgent care for follow-up, texting Logan with claims of trauma and asking if she'd be fired. He didn't answer. He didn't know how to answer. All he knew was Ranger wasn't crazy. And maybe the question wasn't why did Ranger bite Dana. Maybe the real question was, what exactly was in that oatmeal? The morning after the incident, the house felt too quiet. Logan Reed sat at the kitchen counter, staring at the untouched bowl of banana cinnamon oatmeal, still sealed inside a plastic evidence bag. The scent had faded, but something about it still twisted his stomach. He hadn't slept. Not really. Not with his daughter clinging to him like a koala most of the night. And definitely not with Ranger locked up in an unfamiliar kennel labeled as a dangerous dog. He didn't believe it. Not for 1 second. He poured himself a cup of black coffee and glanced at the framed photo near the fridge. It was taken 3 years ago in Mosul. Ranger, younger and leaner, sat by Logan's boot. Desert dust in his fur, a purple heart patch sewn into the handler's vest. The bond between them had been forged under fire, literally. That dog had pulled Logan out of a collapsed building during a drone strike. There was no way in hell he attacked someone out of nowhere, but official paperwork had already been filed. The bite was classified as level 3 deep puncture with bleeding, but no nerve or tendon damage. Still, that was enough for the county to issue a 10-day quarantine order, pending Psychological evaluation by an animal. Behaviorist. Logan had read the form. Twice. It didn't say suspected poison. Defense anywhere, just unprovoked. Aggression. That phrase dug under his skin. Later that morning, Logan stood outside the county animal shelter on Ridgeway Drive. The facility was old, a mix of concrete and chain-link fencing, with the faint smell of bleach and wet fur in the air. He signed in at the front desk, flashed his veteran's ID, and waited for clearance. When they finally let him back to see Ranger, the dog didn't bark, didn't whine. He simply stood up, ears alert, tail low but steady, and pressed his weight into Logan's legs like a silent question. "I know, buddy," Logan murmured. "We're going to fix this. I promise." The shelter tech, a young woman in her 20s, with a sleeve of tattoos, hovered nearby. "He's actually been really calm," she said almost apologetically. "Didn't growl at intake, ate a little, but he hasn't touched his water today." Logan turned to her. "Can I give him something from home? A toy? His blanket?" "Technically, yes, but you'd have to check it in policy." He nodded. He hesitated. "Look, off the record, most dogs don't act like this unless something's up. We've had aggressive cases before. They're usually tense, reactive, even in the kennel. But your guy, he's different." Logan gave a tight smile. "Yeah, he always has been." He knelt beside Ranger, scratching gently behind his ear. The dog leaned into the hutch. But Logan's eyes weren't just on his dog. He was watching the way Ranger occasionally looked toward the far wall of the shelter, toward the sound of a whining puppy behind a gate. Still protective, still alert, even under stress. Not a violent dog, not a loose cannon. Something had triggered him, and Logan was going to find out what. By mid-afternoon, Logan's phone buzzed with a number he hadn't seen in years. "Yeah, Marlene Jacobs." He answered instantly. "Logan, here." Her voice was low, serious. "I ran a GCMS scan on the oatmeal sample, and there are trace amounts of ethylene glycol." Logan's stomach dropped. "That's anti-Res." "Yes. Very small amount, but consistent with early-stage poisoning. The kind that wouldn't kill instantly, especially not in a small dose. But repeated ingestion in a child. Kidney failure within days." Logan went completely still. Ellie could have died. What about exposure? How recent? "I'd say within an hour of the sample being taken. It was fresh, still warm when you dropped it off." He exhaled. "Can you write this up? I need something formal." "I can, but you need to be careful. If this goes to court or CPS gets involved, you'll need more than a toxicology report. You'll need motive. You'll need proof someone put it in there intentionally." Logan closed his eyes. "Thank you, Marlene." He hung up the room, spinning. This wasn't a theory anymore. Ranger hadn't lost his mind. He had saved Ellie's life. That night, Logan replayed everything step by step in his head. Dana had arrived early like usual. She made the oatmeal herself. Ellie sat in her booster while Logan rinsed bottles in the sink. Nothing about it had felt suspicious. Nothing had triggered him until Ranger acted. So he did what any father with a hunch and military experience would do. He checked the Nanny cam. He'd installed it in the hallway months ago, mostly to monitor the front door. It barely caught any of the kitchen. But maybe, just maybe, there was a glimpse. He fast-forwarded. Through hours of footage, eyes blurry, jaw clenched. Most of it was routine. Dana putting on Ellie's shoes. Dana checking her phone. Dana singing nursery rhymes. But then around 7:38 a.m. he saw her pull something from her purse. Small vial unmarked. She uncapped it, held it low to her waist, and stirred something into the oatmeal bowl. No label, no hesitation. Logan leaned closer. You couldn't see what it was. But you didn't need to. He paused the frame, snapped a screenshot, and saved. That was enough. Enough to file a report. Enough to protect his daughter. The next morning, Logan sat across from a detective at the station. Detective Erica Dunn, mid-40s, crisp button-down, silver hoop earrings. She'd known Logan from back when he was on patrol. You sure it was ethylene glycol? I have the report, and I have video of Dana adding something to the oatmeal. I don't know the motive. I don't know why, but Ranger reacted. That's what saved Ellie. Erica leaned back, arms crossed. You realize how heavy this accusation is, right? Attempted poisoning of a child. That's not a domestic dispute. That's federal territory. I'm not accusing yet. I'm reporting suspicious behavior. My daughter's safety comes first. He nodded slowly. Let me take this to the Meanwhile, you keep your daughter close. And don't tip your hand. Logan stood, fists clenched. Ranger stays in quarantine for now until the bite case is officially reclassified. But if your evidence checks out, we'll have grounds to lift it. As Logan walked out of the precinct, a gust of wind rushed down the street. He paused beside his truck, looking at the reflection of the station in the window. His life had shifted overnight from pancakes and Paw Patrol to toxicology reports and surveillance footage. He wasn't just a dad anymore. He was a soldier again on a mission, and someone was going to answer for what they tried to do to his little girl. The waiting room at Pine County Pediatric Clinic smelled faintly of disinfectant and crayons. Ellie sat on the exam table, in a yellow t-shirt with cartoon ducks. Across the chest, legs swinging, a grape lollipop clutched in one hand. Her cheeks were flushed, but she wasn't crying. Not anymore. She watched a nurse take her blood with wide, uncertain eyes. Logan stood next to her, arms folded, doing everything he could not to show what was eating him alive inside. The pediatrician, Dr. Avery Feldman, entered with a calm but deliberate pace. Late 50s, bow tie, soft-spoken, and sharp as a tack. He glanced at the clipboard, then at Logan. I ran the full panel like you asked, he said gently. Ellie's kidneys are functioning normally, but her creatinine levels are